Cis obviously means same in German or something like that. Do you not feel like some women do not identify with that label and they can find it offensive?
Maybe.
Wow.
Is that a dinosaur?
Yeah, pterodactyl.
Is that
I'll do it.
another dinosaur? Somebody had a child, they were 9 years old, and they were questioning their gender. Would you affirm that, or would you in any way scrutinize it or question it?
I would affirm it. I might have some questions so that I could better understand, but I would affirm their choices of how they wanted to present themselves to the public.
Okay.
Transgender who have gone to the reconstructive surgery.
So this is a lie, right? To believe that allowing a child to castrate themselves is somehow doing them a favor is like so incredibly sick.
You have to keep in mind that the child has to get permission from their parents to do
No, they don't. Bingo.
In southern states, they do.
So you're right. In Arkansas, it's the case. Not in California, not in Oregon, not in Washington. It can be done without parental consent. You could transition, get puberty blockers without your parent notification and consent. So just right here in this state, an 11-year-old can go to a therapist, get puberty blockers without their parent knowing, and change their gender and block the process of becoming a fully mature man or woman. That's wrong. It's morally wrong. So the question is, what does it matter, right? How does this implicate all of us? I believe the strong have a moral obligation to protect the not as strong. Men have an obligation to protect women. They do.
That's the problem. Okay,
No,
I like you pointed that out. I like that you pointed that out. Because that plays directly into the social roles and social expectations that we've been experiencing for thousands of centuries.
Let me ask you a question. So if I, as a man, walk into the women's locker room right now, is there something wrong with that?
I'm glad he brought that up because we have no statistic to prove that. In fact, 99% of sexual assaults are men against women, cisgender and heterosexual men against women.
You're proving my point. Hold on. You're proving my point.
There's no statistic.
Hold on a second. You just said men assault women.
Cisgendered and heterosexual men.
You're right. So that's the point. The point that men
no
are likely
men.
to assault women, and therefore men must restrain other men from assaulting women, therefore prevent men who think they are women from abusing women.
No, you're doing a loophole right now. What the is this?
How many reports are there of transgender women assaulting other women?
Thousands and thousands and
Can
thousands.
you show us? I have a BBC statistic.
Loudoun County, Los Angeles County, Loudoun County, Virginia, two-time rapist goes into a bathroom, rapes a classmate. I don't know the name of the rapist.
Okay,
Loudoun County, Virginia, happened a couple months ago.
Transgender people, that's a cisgender person.
No, it's not. No, it's a transgender person. But let's take rape and all that stuff aside, which is a big deal. From a fairness standpoint of how we structure society, are we going to acknowledge that men are better at some things than women and women are better at some things than men, and that men can't become pregnant, and therefore we should have different dividing lines in society to recognize that material reality?
Males can become pregnant. There's a difference between male and female and men and women. There's a clear
Wait, I'm
difference.
sorry, men can become pregnant?
No, I'm not saying men can become pregnant, but there's a difference between men and women and male and female.
So males can become pregnant?
I don't think you understand what I'm saying.
No, I'm not.
Sex regards to male and female, the biological aspects in regards to whether someone can reproduce or not. A man and a woman is regard to like the cultural meaning in which you can either
right. So okay, this is right. Okay, as you're saying. So you guys are regurgitating this insane New Age propaganda that somehow you could just kind of change your biological reality.
It's not propaganda. For thousands of years, there have been social expectations
here's the thing.
against men and women. And finally, we've been
so
changing
regardless
that.
of
It's not rigid anymore.
regardless of all this pablum, you're wrong.
I don't. You have not proved that I'm wrong. You have no logic.
Okay, so let me prove it to you. Okay. So if you can change your gender, which you say you can,
yes,
can you change other things at your will? For example,
because gender is not rigid. That's what I'm saying. You can't change your sex. Gender is not rigid, though. It's a social and fluid expectation.
Right. So what else? So are other things fluid and social?
No, race is not fluid.
Race is not? Okay. So you can't change your race?
No, you can't.
Okay. Can you change your age?
No, you can't change your age.
But why not? What if you have a mental
condition? You can't change
condition?
your sex either, which is what you're referring to. Male can't be female.
I'm comparing to both. I'm saying there's no difference in sex and
gender.
No, there is. And you've all been lied to your whole life.
Gender is
that everyone.
You're not listening to what I'm saying.
No, I am, and I have sympathy because your whole life have been propagandized to believe that you can raise your hand and believe something that you're not.
And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold. That's Matthew 24 from verse 12. And in this verse, Jesus is warning about a time in the future when the world will experience significant breakdown of moral and ethical standards. Lawlessness refers to the absence or rejection of God's commandments, leading people to act without regard for justice, truth, or the well-being of others. Can you imagine? This societal decay is a sign of spiritual and moral decline, where sin behaviors are normalized. Can you imagine? And the pursuit of personal desires takes precedence over loving and serving others. How terrible that is. That's terrible.
So there should be two genders.
Correct. Let me ask you a question. Do you think a child, when they're born, should be raised in a certain mold, or do you think that child should be able to determine what gender it is as it grows up?
I think that child should be allowed to determine what gender that they define by.
So if a child is born with an XY chromosome as a male, you shouldn't raise that as a son. You should allow that child to discover whatever it is.
Yes.
Okay, that's you and I.
They should be allowed to define themselves and define who they want to be seen as.
Okay, so do you think there's differences between men and women?
Yes, there are biological differences between men and women.
But so then what would you would say to a child that's born? You're not going to raise it as a son or as a daughter. You allow it to discover itself. So sons should be allowed to have dolls, and, whatever, and whatever happens.
Yes. Are you saying that men should not be allowed to have Barbie dolls?
I did not say that whatsoever, but I'm saying there's certain character attributes and traits of how young men should be raised and how young ladies should be raised.
You are defining that women should be raised in one way and men should be raised in another.
Without a shadow of a doubt, yes. Men should have to restrain themselves from the physical proclivity. Men should to be gentlemen, to never use force unless absolutely necessary. Men should have to mature over a long period of time, to not indulge in their Darwinian proclivity to hurt, to harm, to hunt. And women who are more biologically likely to be nurturers and caretakers should be taught to be ladies from a young age. That's biologically consistent.
So and stay at home.
No, if women want to do something different, that's fine. However, the data shows when men and women are presented with equitable choices, women are much more likely to. Oh, you should send that to Venezuela. I don't have that there. When men and women around ages 6 to 18 are given the option of what kind of majors they want to study, women tend to go towards early childhood education, nursing, so on and so forth, and men tend to go towards business and finance. Men and women have biological differences.
Because of the way that they were raised.
No, that's you and I completely disagree. It's because of the DNA chromosomal structure that is inherent to who they are.
Why would you have to mold it themselves?
I'll take one.
Sorry, girl.
Wait, what is the toilet paper?
If they're just naturally,
If
that's naturally just gonna
they have a predisposition towards a certain behavioral pattern, but goodness must be taught.
Well, goodness must be taught. I mean, goodness is goodness.
Well, no, I mean, people are broken by nature. You must teach a child to stop crying or to stop lying or to
People
stop
are
manipulating.
broken by nature?
Yes.
So you're going by the religious aspects that we
Of original sin, yes, because data supports it. Child
So is this a religious thing?
No, I am an evangelical Christian if you want to ask me, but it's a purely secular argument.
Okay, but by stating the argument that people are born in sin, that is a religious argument that is outside of politics, and politics and religion should be separated.
Again, so you asked, is it an original sin argument? Yes. People are predisposed towards doing bad by their nature. Why do we have to teach kids to stop crying?
What science backs that up?
Child psychology. Jordan Peterson. You laugh? Yeah, one of the most noted published. Yeah, he taught at Harvard. He taught at some of the top schools across the world, and now he's being ostracized because he talks that men and women are different, which is now a radical notion in our university system. Men are better at some things than women, and women are better at some things than men.
What things are men better at?
Lifting heavy objects.
Alright, cool.
Women are better caretakers and nurturers. Women are more organized. Women mature earlier.
Dude, I'm a way better nurturer than my sister. I work with kids, holy shit.
There are always exceptions to the rule, but the rule exists for a
there's
reason.
no rule.
So the top...
There cannot be exceptions to a rule because the rule doesn't exist.
No, that's not the case. You have the rule, which is a generally true on the aggregate, but you always have things that are outliers to the data trend. Always. So when you say that men are typically better physically positioned than physically gifted than women, that's true. I mean, you look around.
I'm sorry. Say that again?
That men are usually stronger physically than women, that is true. The data supports that. Are there women that are stronger than men? Of course, that's an exception to a rule. That's called an outlier to data.
How is that a naturally better thing? Because, like,
I'm not saying better. I'm not saying one sex or gender is better than the other. They're different.
I can see your point. I can see that men do have more testosterone.
Oh, okay,
they are
that's what I'm saying. So there's differences.
Yes, but
Therefore, men are better at certain things than women, and women are better at certain things than men.
When you choose the action, you choose the consequence. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. You don't want the consequence? Don't choose the action. It's not difficult at all. It's not. Our actions directly impact the outcome of our lives. Every decision we make, no matter how big or small, sets into motion a series of events that leads to consequences, whether positive or negative, good or bad. That's just the way it is, ladies and gentlemen. These are life principles. We hold the keys to our own futures through the decisions we make today. Every action has a corresponding consequence. And if we learn to acknowledge that, we are better equipped to make choices that aligns with the values, the goals, and the desires that we want out of life. Literally, the power of this insight lies in its simplicity. Understand that actions and consequences are inseparable. You cannot separate these ones. And by making thoughtful decisions, we can create the life that we truly want to live. When we attempt to remove God from society, we strip away the moral foundation that upholds justice, integrity, and order. Without His guidance, absolute truth becomes subjective, and people begin to define right and wrong based on their own personal desires rather than a higher standard. Can you imagine? And this will lead to moral confusion, division, and an increase in selflessness, lawlessness, and corruption, ladies and gentlemen. Literally, history has shown that societies that distance themselves from God often experience a decline in values and erosion of the family structure and a rise in chaos as people seek fulfillment in temporal pleasures rather than the eternal truth. That's deep, that's concerning. And it's sad. Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my greatest desire above all else is that one day these students will come to know the truth, come to know God, to truly encounter Him, and to find in Him a peace that surpasses all understanding. I long for them to lay down their burdens, their fears, and their restless strivings, and instead rest in the refuge and the grace that Jesus provides. May their hearts be softened. May they find light. May their eyes be opened. Their spirits drawn towards the truth of the gospel, the good news of Jesus Christ. For in finding God, Jesus Christ, they will discover a life transformed, one marked by hope, forgiveness, and peace that no earthly circumstance can shake. That is my deepest prayer for them. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click on the next one And please subscribe, like, and comment. I'll see you next time. It's bye-bye for now.